Good evening and good afternoon to all of you from wherever you are joining us today. Before we start today's session, please do feel free to check in using the details which are on the screen. The link and the event ID both are needed. This will give you access to additional resources and information about events that we are running on the reactor which are around similar topics to today's session. Also, you will be able to access all the links that our speaker will refer during the session. I will also share the event checking link on the Q&A section soon. Thank you all for joining us today. My name is Rashmita and I'm the event planner for Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru. This session will run over the next 60 minutes, including Q&A. The session is being recorded and will be made available to watch on demand on the Microsoft Reactor YouTube channel. I will share the link to our YouTube channel in the Q&A section shortly. Quick word on a code of conduct. We display this at all Microsoft Reactor events that we run, and it's really just a reminder to be aware of others. The key thing to take out here is to be respectful of other people's views, understanding of differences, being kind and considerate in the way you engage. The chat will be open throughout, and we do encourage you all to participate. Please keep your mics muted during the session. I would now like to welcome Mustafa, our speaker for today's session. Mustafa is a Microsoft intern. Previously, he has been a gold partner at Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador. He has conducted multiple workshop seminars on cloud computing. But for now, I will hand over to Mustafa to begin the session. Over to you, Mustafa.
Hello everyone. First of all, thank you very much for attending the session. I'm really grateful that you took interest in the topic and decided to learn more about the subject that we are going to present. I will start with a small presentation. Rashmita, can you make me the presenter?
Yes, just give me 1 minute. Just see right now, Mustafa. Are you able to do it?
Um, I think so. I have registered with another ID. If you can see this one, um,
Okay.
Mustafa.
Yeah, sure. 1 minute. Just give me 2 minutes. Just see right now if you can. Share your screen.
I don't think so. The only
Uh,
meeting organizers and presenters can share.
okay, hang on. Done.
You might be seeing two Mustafa Saifi. One is my office account, and the other one is the account I'm using to do the
I
presentation.
am actually seeing only one right now. That's
Okay.
is yeah, only just one. I can't see the other one.
Okay. I have removed
Okay.
one of the
Okay.
accounts.
Yeah. Yeah. Hang on.
Now you see one in the attendees.
Yeah. Just 1 minute.
The account that you're calling right now, I would be using that account today because that is the Microsoft account.
Okay.
So in the attendees list, there is an account Mustafa Saifi. Maybe you can make him the
Yeah. Got it. Yeah, it was not added initially, so just add
yeah.
it right now. Yeah. So you add it
Okay.
back as an organizer. Yeah. Just try now.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
Okay, great.
So yeah, it's done. So I'll be sharing a PPT. Just give me a sec. Just let me know. Is the presentation visible now? The first slide?
Yes, yes. I
Okay,
can
thanks.
see. Yeah.
So instead of going through what we are going to do by the slides, I will directly tell what will it look like when the whole thing is done. So I'll share my screen for a second. And so if you can see on this browser. So at the end of the session, what is the outcome that we are going to get? So I'm going to show first the outcome. So, that will give you an insight of what you are going to do during the whole session. So after the whole session is complete, I mean, I understand that it will be sometimes difficult to follow the hands-on workshop while I'm explaining that this is what we are building and this is how you do it. But in any case, Rashmita is gonna record this session as well. So in case if you miss anything, you can go back to the recording and check what have you missed, and so that you can complete the session in case you miss it. So this is the ending. You will have this URL, your own URL. For now, I have named this at RE1. This is just for practice. And so when you give this URL to someone, it is hosted on Azure websites, and this is how your resume will look. I'll give this template as well, and so you can modify all these details according to what you want, and then your name, your profile picture, your email ID, everything will be yours. And this is what you're gonna get at the end of this session. So how will we go about it? So coming back to the presentation. Yeah, it's the presentation is uploading. Just give me a sec.
देखिए प्लीज स्पेसिफिक एटलीस्ट वन रिसीप्ट हाँ तो एड्रेस लिखे या नहीं आप क्या बोले आपको ओ अच्छा 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 वो
All right. I guess the slide is visible to everyone. So I just showed what we are going to build, and I will welcome you again to the session. So we are going to deploy our resume and portfolio using Microsoft Azure App Services and with using GitHub. So how are we going to go about it? So first of all, the timeline of the presentation is this whole thing is that I'll present for like 5 to 10 minutes. Then for 30 to 35 minutes, I'm gonna do the hands-on practical. And then for 15 to 20 minutes, we're gonna do troubleshooting of the doubt. Yeah, Rashmita, can you just handle the chat as well for the, thank you. So yeah, so I'll start with the presentation. So first of all, Microsoft has a lot of services. It's like basically a huge pelotra of arsenal where you have every tool that you want to use for your IT infrastructure or any IT need. We are just going to focus on a single service that is called the app services. Now, this app service is a service that has a lot of features that an engineer or a full-time employee can leverage to for his company, for himself. If it's a freelancer or a company, anyone can leverage that those tools from the app services. One of the features, I'm not gonna make this presentation too long, so I'm just gonna go from over the overview of the services. It's a fully managed service where it's an infrastructure where the maintenance, security, and patching, all of this is done automatically. You don't have to spend your time to do all of this. So let's say you have an app and you are a developer. What you want to do is focus on the development part and not the scaling part, infrastructure, maintenance, patching, scaling, all of those parts. You don't have to focus on it. You can rely on Azure App Services to do that for you. So that is one of the features of App Services. Next is CI/CD integration. Now, whatever app you make or whatever software you're working on, you need continuous integration, continuous deployment to make that app automated. And sometimes these automations can, create downtime as well. So, so this is one thing that, yeah. So this is one thing that App Services offers is the built-in CI/CD integration. So the developer doesn't have to focus on building his own CI/CD tool or use a third-party CI/CD tool to automate his app or website, any one of it. Next is rigorous security. So yeah, one of the major issues of so we have seen a huge rise in the IT sector. We have seen that no matter what you use, even the watch that you are wearing right now needs security. Everything needs security. Without security, basically your identity is revealed to everyone. So security is one of the major features, and Microsoft Azure is the biggest pioneer right now in security services. So no matter what service of Microsoft you use, there is always security involved, and as well as compliance. You might be knowing other softwares and companies and cloud technologies which might be restricted in some countries because of the compliance issues. But in case of Microsoft, Microsoft is compliant to almost all the countries in the world and all the security agencies in the world. So you don't have to worry about that. Your security is the your app's security is the responsibility of Microsoft Azure in case of infrastructure. And then there's integration with VNets. So let's say that your app, I am from India and I have a friend in USA, and not just a friend, let's say users. I have users in USA and I have users in China. So I just have to build the app. Now I can create the app and trust Microsoft Azure to give seamless experience to all the users all over the world so that they can have an equal service. It won't be like Indian users will have better service and USA users will have less service. So Microsoft Azure makes sure that everyone gets the perfect services. You can use virtual networks and all of those things to balance this out. So among all of these features that Azure App Services provide, what we are going to focus is on bringing your code. Building a website or an application. When you say that, we have an audience of 44. All the 44 people will think differently. Some people will think I'll build something using Java. Someone will think I'll build something using React Native. And these are just app developers. Now, if you think about web developers, someone will use Python for backend, someone will use JavaScript, and someone will use I don't know, a PHP. So everyone has a different combination of softwares, backend and front end to build their app or web app. So that is the power of web app services. It supports all of these things. Once we do the hands-on, you will realize that there are a plethora of options available to accommodate the technology stack that you are using. So that is one thing that Azure App Services is really good at. I mean, when I started using Microsoft Azure, I always wondered how would Microsoft Azure know which technology I am comfortable with. I am comfortable with PHP. So would Microsoft Azure have that? Okay, yes, Microsoft Azure has that. But then my friend who is in my team of hackathon, he's comfortable with JavaScript. So is there JavaScript integration? Then yes, it has so many integration, and not just simple integration, but integration with versions. Like let's say JavaScript has a version 1.1, then there's also 1.2, 1.3. I mean, I'm not sure about the version, but let's say for an example, if there are versions, then Microsoft Azure provides you the facility to use different versions for your application. Next thing is increasing in developer productivity. So because of so everyone uses a different kind of IDE, but Microsoft Azure is compatible with all the IDEs. You can just use the plugin of Microsoft Azure in your IDEs, especially Microsoft, the Visual Studio Code and the Visual Studio Software, which are the signature IDEs of Microsoft, and a lot of developers use them. In fact, in the corporate environment as well, a lot of companies use Visual Studio as their IDEs. So there is seamless integration between the Visual Studio and the Azure, the cloud part that you have. You just have to code in your Visual Studio. Everything will be updated, automatically synced in your Azure. Then again, what I talked about CI/CD. So some people use GitHub, some people use Atlassian, Bitbucket, some people use Azure DevOps. Everyone has a different requirement. Everyone has a choice. Let's say I work for X company and we don't use Azure DevOps. We use GitHub. And the other guy who works for Y company, he uses Bitbucket. So it's not like that Microsoft is very focused. No, it's Microsoft Azure. So you have to use Azure DevOps, or it's Microsoft Azure. So you have to use Azure Container for your application. No, there is flexibility. It's completely developer supported. You can use all of these CI/CD facilities to integrate those CI/CD tools with your app services on Microsoft Azure. And then the biggest selling point of Microsoft Azure, that the downtime is very less, the risk, the redundancy, all of these things, it's very perfect. You have proper SLAs in place so that you can make sure that your app is on. Like we know that there are outages. There are so many issues going on in the world that, you know, so it takes years and years to build reputation, right? Like Microsoft wasn't built in a day. Google was not built in a day. It takes years and years of reputation. And just once, like for an hour, your website goes down, your application goes down, and every reporter, internet blogs and everything is talking about it. It's just 1 hour of downtime, and still people are talking about it. So although I do agree that every publicity is good publicity, even if it is bad publicity, but why not have good publicity that no, your server has never went down. So you can confidently say my server has never went down because I trusted Microsoft Azure. I have given all my workload to Microsoft Azure, and I have an SLA of 99.999% with Microsoft Azure. So yeah, my website has never been down. You can say that with confidence. That is what Microsoft Azure App Services gives you. Now, if you want to know about what app services is, you can go ahead and go to this link. I will get this link in the chat as well. Just a second. I have pasted this link in the chat. You can refer to this link to know more about the Azure App Services. It's amazing. It's like if you don't need to know Microsoft Azure. When I started using Microsoft Azure, I was a student, and when I used to use it, I mean, I just started using it. I was thinking, oh, this is a tool that is not meant for me. I am a student. It is not meant for me. It is meant for seasoned developers and experienced developers. I cannot do it. That is what I thought. But when I started using it, you don't need to know everything in Microsoft Azure. All you need to know is the service that you are going to require. People often feel this complex inferiority complex that, okay, Microsoft Azure has 200 services, 300 services. I don't even know 5. You don't need to know 5. You just need to know the one service that is perfect for your app. And I believe that app services is like a very powerful service that it covers everyone. So that is one thing. Now, I guess that is enough of theory, and I'll get straight to the hands-on. Okay, so in this slide, you can see that there are some requirements we need to, if you want to follow the hands-on. Anyways, if you want to follow the hands-on, you can follow these steps. If you want to just view it, and then maybe after the session, you can go through the recording, and you can, if you want, you can go through the recording and then again go with the flow. So yeah. So first of all, you need an Outlook.com account. Why do you need an Outlook.com account? Because you want to create an account on Microsoft Azure. That's why I would highly recommend that while I am doing this presentation, you can create an Outlook account. So, and if you have it, then well and good. That's great. So you should have an Outlook account. Then, like, to keep things simple, I have decided that once you create an Outlook account, create a GitHub account with the same username so that you will have it easy while syncing all these applications among themselves. So with the same Outlook account ID, you can log into your GitHub account ID, and then you can. So we will need this. I'm telling this for a reason. We will need all this seamless integration to make it pretty simple. So what our aim is, we want to host a resume. So generally a resume is a PDF or a document, Word document that you submit to a company. but that is very what can I say? It's a very traditional way of submitting your resume. What people now want is different ways you can present your resume on your LinkedIn or something. You can even people in the website section you can put your resume link. So when they click on the website section, it will automatically redirect them to your resume, and your resume will be a selectable resume where they can click and copy paste or go through your resume if they want. So that is how we are going to make this. It's a very simple. Every step that I'm going to take in this one is very simple. All you need to do is just just you have to understand that this is not difficult. This is very simple. Even there are some difficult steps, but I have chosen not to use those steps, and I tried to use as simple steps as possible so that if someone is new to Microsoft Azure, they can easily follow. Next thing is why we need a GitHub account, because we need it for the GitHub repository. Why do we need a GitHub repository? Because in this GitHub repository, we are going to save this code for this resume CV that I'm talking about, this resume. So I have a ready-made template, which is open source and freely available on the internet. I used that template as the code for our GitHub repository. Anyways, you can bring your own code. That is not a restriction. But just to make it easier for some people who are not good with HTML and CSS, they can use this template, just edit the names, the photo and everything, and put their name or whatever they want to put. So yeah, you can use that repository. I'm going to paste all these links in the chat section as well, and you can check in to get these resources. Next thing is you're going to need a Microsoft Azure account. If you have it, then that is well and good. It's amazing if you have it. If you don't, then I will paste the link for that. So if you are a working professional, you can use this link to register Microsoft Azure for free. It might ask you to register your card, but don't worry about it. It won't deduct credits from your account until and unless the benefits expire. And you have like 1 month to use all those credits and a whole year of free services. So you can use that. So this free link is for users. And this is for if you are a student or you're studying somewhere or an academician, you can use the other link that I have pasted in the chat to get a free account on Microsoft Azure. And then the next thing is you can visit the GitHub repository that I'm talking about. And if you already have your GitHub account ready, you can go ahead, go to this link, which I have pasted in the chat. It's github.com/mustafa/q/html css resume template. You can visit this link, and there is there are 2 to 3 files in this repository. You can just fork the repository so that repository becomes yours. The next thing is we are gonna visit the Microsoft Azure portal, and we'll search about the app services. We'll create a web app, and then we'll choose basic options respectively. I'll talk about those basic options when we go to the hands-on, but I'm just presenting it so that you will have an overview when I'm actually presenting it. The next thing is we'll go to deployment and we'll decide which build provider we need for the app services to build. That is also the technology stack that we are going to use. So that is what a build provider is. And the next thing is I'm just asking, Rashmita, have you started the recording? I can't see it anywhere.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you. And the last thing is we'll go to the overview page, and then we'll finally have a URL with our website in it. Okay, so now I'll share my screen and I'll go step by step with what exactly we're going to do. So first of all, I'm assuming that everyone has created their Microsoft Azure account, or maybe you can tell in the chat if you need some time to figure out getting an account, or are you creating the GitHub account? If you want some time, you can ask me that, can I wait for 5 minutes or 3 minutes or something? I'll wait for it. If someone pings in the chat that you need 3 minutes, then I'll wait for it if you want, and then I'll continue with the hands-on. Please let me know. All right, I guess everyone is following through. I'm good now. Yeah, sure. Thank you for the confirmation. Thanks a lot. So yeah, So let's start with, first of all, you can always bookmark this or it's always there in my portal. So you can just go to portal.azure.com. This is the portal uh, that you use for Microsoft Azure. And another thing is the GitHub repository that I was talking about in the presentation. Yes, this GitHub repository. I will just copy this link. So this is the GitHub repository that I was talking about. All you have to do is go and click on fork. Once you fork it, all these codes, all these files will get copied to your GitHub repository, and you can use it as per your comfort. Now, yeah, you are done forking this repository. I'm assuming that you are done forking this repository. Now, once you're done forking this, let's go back to the slide. What we are going to do next is we'll visit this website, portal.azure.com. We are already here. Now you can come here, and first thing you're going to do is search whatever you want to do in Azure. You can just come to the search bar and type it out, Azure App Services. And this is the one that we're going to use. You see this one, App Services, with the logo of a world with some interconnected wires. This is the one that we're going to use, App Services. Once you click on it, you'll see all the app services that you have created. The RE1 is the app services that I created for practice. I'll just delete it once so that you will know how to delete an app services if you have created one. And I will delete this. I have to type the name of the app, RE1, delete. This is just a step I'm showing. If you want to, if there are times where I'm just saying this because I know this point of view. There was a time I didn't even know how to delete an app services. I never knew how to find this app service, then go over here, then click on delete. It's that simple, but I didn't know. So that happens sometimes. So that's why I'm showing how to delete one. Now let's get back to the app services. This is the app services page you will see. You can click on create. When you click on create, a small console will open up that says create web app. All you have to do is do the settings respectively. You must be having a subscription. I hope you have a subscription, and for all the free for the people who might get the free account, they might see an Azure free account or Azure education account or Azure for students, something like this in your Azure account. So first of all, you have to select an Azure subscription. I'll select VSC E67, and then you need a resource group. So you have to create a new resource group. Type the name of the resource group, new. Let's type it. Reactor RG. So I've created a new resource group called Reactor RG. This is a resource group. What's a resource group? I am pretty sure a lot of people might be knowing what a resource group is, but just for an overview, I'm saying this. A resource group is, let's call it a box. Let's call it a box. Now, let's say you're working on a project and you have a lot of files. You have some documents, you have some photos, you have some models, you have different things of this project. Instead of saving this at different places, you just buy a box and then you put all, you just don't buy it, you just get a box, you put all of these things in that box. Once you're done with the project and you think it's not useful anymore, just pack the box and throw it away. As simple as that. So resource group is a collection of all these resources that you're going to use for any project or anything like that. So I created a new resource group. Creating a new resource group is very simple. Just click on create new and it will ask you for a new name for the resource group, and the resource group is created. The next thing is the web app name. I'll name it as Mustafa Saifi. Okay, it's available. So I chose this name as Mustafa Saifi.azurewebsites.net. How am I going to use it? Will I put my own code or will I use a Docker container? Now, as I said, I'll keep this simple. If I use a Docker container, then again, I have to go deeper into how to use a Docker container. I'll avoid that. And let's go with a simple code. Runtime stack. What is a runtime stack? Everyone knows that for a website, you need a backend. When you need a backend, I told you, right? Microsoft Azure has compatibility with a lot of backend services, and these are all the services that I was talking about. Sorry. .NET, all of these versions of .NET, then Java, Node.js, PHP, Python, Ruby. So I'm comfortable with PHP, and I guess for this demo, let's use PHP. Like for the sake of making it simple, I've used PHP because PHP doesn't need many configuration. All of these other Java, Python, they all need special configuration if you move ahead. So for this case, we will use PHP 7.4. I selected it. Operating system, I can either choose Linux or Windows. I'm choosing Windows. And then I can select any region, whatever region is nearest to you. I can use East US if I want. Any region is good with you, whatever you like. Okay. Now there is this Windows plan East US. You can leave it as it is. This is what matters. SKUs and size. So what is SKU and size? This is the power that you give to your app services. There are computing resources behind an app services. There is always a server standing behind a website that you see. So this server needs resources that you can change from here. You can click on change size. A spec picker will open up. Spec picker. If you are a dev test, you can choose from this one. S1 is the smallest one. It's like the cheapest one in all of these packages. If you go for production, it will have more power, more memory. So if you see in this dev test, there is F1, D1, and B1. These are like small, just for development and testing purposes. F1 is a free service. You don't need to pay for it. I again told you, if you create a free account, you can use these free services. You can use F1, you can use D1, you can use B1. As you see, there is difference. This will get 1 GB memory. This will get 1 GB, 1.75 GB. 60 minutes per day compute, 240 minutes. So it varies. OK, I'm going to go to production and I'm going to use this small package which has all of this configuration, whose estimated cost is 3,155 rupees per month. I'm going to use this one and I'll click on apply. And you can see it over here. If you want, you can click on deployment preview, etc. But you don't need it. You can simply go to review and create. I mean, just for the sake of keeping it simple, I'm not going through the sub options because you don't need it right now. You might need it if you're going through a very intense application deployment, but for now, you don't need it. Once you click on review and create, it will show you the summary of all the settings that you have done. We selected the name as this Windows operating system, and the name of this website will be Mustafa Saifi. The resource group will be Reactor RG, all of this, etc., etc. This is the estimated price and memory, all of this. And then you can click on create. Once you click on create, you can assume for like you can take 2 to 3 minutes. It will take 2 to 3 minutes to deploy this application. So let's give it 2 to 3 minutes. And meanwhile, you can follow these steps. If you're stuck somewhere, please unmute yourself and let me know if you're stuck. I'll see if there is anything on the chat. Yeah, you can't scale in, scale out with some of these, right? Yeah, you're right. You're right. So you cannot scale with every one of these. Scaling in and scaling out requires special machineries. You have to put them under load balancers, and you need different configuration for that. And then again, with more power comes more cost. So there's that. So if you want a really nice service, then you can add those services to your app services. It's pretty simple. You just have to search that app services. Let's say if I want to add a load balancer, I'm just searching for now. Let's say I'm using a virtual machine. I search for a load balancer. I created a load balancer. And then when I create a load balancer, I can put it in the same resource group that we created, Reactor RG. And then I can give it a region, give all the public IP address, all of those things. And then I can connect it to my app services or whatever virtual machine I'm using. And that's it. So that's how you can, it's up to you. There are a plethora of resources. It's like mixing and matching, just like how you make a cocktail. You can add whatever you want and make it as powerful as you want. That is completely up to you. I'll come back to the home. I can go back to the notification and check that my deployment has succeeded. There were no errors, thank God, and that's good. So yeah, so the deployment has been successful. We can click here and go to resources. When you click this is the resource page you see of your app services. If you don't find this, if you don't know how to get here, the simple way is click on your home page. This Microsoft Azure, you see, just click it here, come back to the home page. You can see it here. You see, most recent created, recent resources, Mustafa Saifi. If it is not there, then you can see it here. You see these app services. It will show all the most recently app services, services that you use. You can click on app services and voila, there is your app service. Even if you don't see it here, just go here, search app services, click on here, and this is the app service page where you can find your your app that you deployed. That is Mustafa Saifi. Just click on it. So whatever the name of the app service that you have given, click on it. From here, now you have the admin panel of this website. You can do each and every modification you want. Every configuration, authentication, networking, security, scale up, scale out. Someone asked, right? So you cannot do that, but you can, you cannot. It's a yes no answer. If you want to, if you don't want to, you don't need it. If you don't need it, you don't need to go over here and do all the scale up, scale out settings. But for that, again, I told you, right? You have to again add additional resources. Let's not go there because it might be confusing to some. You can add SQL to your apps. You can do a lot of things. You can do health check with it, diagnostic. There's you can, whenever you have time, you can check your metrics on the website, how much is the load and everything. You can apply filters. There are so many. You can even set alerts. Yeah, you can set alerts that yeah, the traffic has increased this much, or maybe you have set a trigger that if the audience is if my developer base has tried to access, if 10,000 people are trying to access it, but my limit is just 1,000 people, I can set an alert so that I can manually come and increase the, or maybe I can set automation as well. Like I told you, right? It's like mixing a cocktail. All you need to do is add the ingredient that you want. So there are all of these ingredients. What I want you to do right now is, so I'll explain it like this. This is GitHub and this is Microsoft Azure. Where is your code? Your code can be on Microsoft Azure, your code can be on GitHub, or your code can be on OneDrive, Google Drive, on your own server, or on your own laptop, anywhere. It can be anywhere. But I would suggest GitHub for now because GitHub is the most popular version control used in the world right now. It has maximum users out there. So I'm pretty sure that most of my audience here right now might be using GitHub. So we'll use GitHub as the code deployment option for now, but you can use anything. Again, you're free to use. So for that, you have to come to your app services. This Mustafa Saifi's app services page. You can see all of these options in your left hand side column. You can see overview, activity log, all of that. Under deployment, you have to find this option, deployment center. All you have to do is click on deployment center. Wait for it. Now it will ask you, who is the source code provider? I said it is GitHub. So I clicked on GitHub. And all the options came over here. OK. Next thing is it is asking building with GitHub Actions. But I don't want to build with GitHub Actions because the reason being not everyone is well versed with GitHub Actions. If you use GitHub Actions, then you have to do a different separate set of configurations on GitHub to merge your GitHub Actions with your Azure. Let's remove that unnecessity. I'll click on change provider and I'll set it as app service build service. This is a very simple service. It doesn't require any special configuration. You can just click on it and yeah, you're there. That's it. I mean, what I mean to say is I'm trying to make it as simple as possible. There are a million options that you can use to make your app a diamond. OK, but for now, as we are going through the beginner phase, we'll assume that this will be using the app service build service, the service that Microsoft Azure has given us to make it simple. That's it. Now, because I have already signed in with my GitHub account, that's why it is showing signed in as Mustafa Saifi. It might not show the same for you. It might show as signed in as something blank. OK, all you need to do is open a new browser. I mean, open a new tab, sign in with your GitHub. Once you're signed in, sign in from here, give the permissions, allow the permissions, and like you have to wait for like 5 minutes for Microsoft Azure to recognize GitHub. Once it recognizes, it will link. Once it's linked, you can see it over here. As you can see my username, my GitHub username is Saifi Mustafa Q. As you can see my username, you'll see your username once it's linked. Now, a lot of people here know what GitHub is. So the first thing that you see in GitHub is organization. My organization is Saifi Mustafa Q because I don't belong to, I mean, I do belong to an organization, but my GitHub account doesn't belong to an organization. My GitHub account belongs to me. So the organization is me. That is Saifi Mustafa Q. So yeah, I selected Saifi Mustafa Q. Now we have to select the repository where you created the HTML CSS code that you have forked. How did you do that? I'll remind you again. I gave a link about GitHub where the HTML CSS resume template is hosted. This link. On this link, there is this code. I told you to fork it. Once you fork it, what will happen? I'll take a sample name as John Doe. So John Doe has an account on GitHub and he has forked this repository. Now, because he has forked this repository, this URL will become John Doe /HTML CSS resume template. If you see John Doe /HTML CSS resume template, then yes, you have successfully forked this repository. Once you have forked this repository, if you have forked this repository successfully, when you click here, you can see all the repositories of your GitHub. Now you can even see HTML CSS resume template that I was talking about on the other tab, the HTML CSS resume template. All you have to do is click on it. Once you click it, it will save it. Yes. And then there's branch. OK. You can click on branch. I want to do the master branch. OK. And all I have to do is click on save. Once I click on save, my website will be ready to be deployed. I'll show you that the website is not deployed right now. I'll go back to the overview. I am just removing all the edits I made. I removed all the settings. Now this is the overview page that you see, right? And this is the URL that you see. On the overview page, you will see this URL. Now Microsoft Azure has allotted this URL to me. That is https://mustafasaifi.azurewebsites.net. Let's go to this website. So I came to this website called https whatever. So the website name is there, but my content is not being deployed. It says, hey, app service developers, whatever. So you have not deployed your code over here. You can use any of these services to deploy your code, but you haven't. So you have to do it, right? Now to do that, I did this tab. To do that, so for now, this is what you see. The code is not deployed. I'll come back to my website. I'll go to deployment center. I will wait. I'll wait. Yeah, I'll wait. And then this is the deployment center. I will select the code source. Again, I'm repeating all the steps. GitHub. I'll change the building provider. I'll change the provider and I'll make it as app service build service. I'll scroll down. I'll make sure that I'm signed in with the same account that I forked this GitHub repository that I showed you previously. I'll select the organization that is Saifi Mustafa Q. I'll select the repository HTML CSS resume template. I got it. Yeah. And then I'll choose the branch. The branch will be the master branch. After selecting all of this, now this is like the final moment of this deployment. All you have to do is click on save. That's it. You have to wait 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that's it. Done. Oh, this sync button is here. If you make any changes to your code, let's say. I'll show you why the sync button is there. Let's say if I come to index.html and I make any changes, I can't edit right now because I'm not signed in. But let's say if I edit, let's say I edit and I make some changes. Now I want those changes to be reflected on my Microsoft Azure. All I have to do is click on sync. When you click on sync, this deployment center will send a request to GitHub to send the latest version of the code that we have right now. It will sync and it will send the code here. Now, as we have saved this, I'll click on overview. Now, this was the website that I was talking about, right? Mustafasaifi.azurewebsites.net. I'll just click on refresh. And voila, the page changed, right? This is just a sample template and all of these things you see, you can easily change it. You can change this name, job title. You can even change the display picture and all of this. So you see, it's that simple. Some people might think that, OK, it's too simple. And some people might think that it's too difficult, but I would say that it's medium because nowadays it's very cliche to submit your PDF as a resume. No matter where you apply for a job, they'll always ask you for a website link. which not everyone doesn't have a website link. I didn't. I was a student. I didn't have a website. I didn't have the cash or the amount to pay for a website. I did have Microsoft Azure. I did have a free account. I used the free account to host my resume, and that is what I submitted in my website column. So yeah, that is how you host your Azure. I mean your resume on Microsoft Azure using GitHub Azure Deployment Center. So yes, this is all about today's workshop. I tried to keep it as short as possible because I wanted to make it look simple. That's why I used the least options possible and the easiest options there are out there. So I hope that you learned something new, or you learned something you might already know, but revising it or something. And we can go ahead with the troubleshooting if you have anything or you want to ask anything. That's it. Yeah, from my side.
Mustafa, we
I'll wait
have
for
few
some.
questions. Do you
Okay.
want to take it?
Are they in the chat?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I'll just. Okay, you can change the SQ at any time, right? I think there is some downtime though, but only a small. Yes, thank you so much for asking this question. This is a very legit question. I like these questions. So yes, you can change this. Once when I'll answer all these questions with my experiences. When I tried Microsoft Azure for the first time, I selected the costliest SKU that was out there. But then I realized I did select the costliest to make my website super awesome and super flexible. But that won't help, right? I mean, it's a resume website. You don't need a very high, heavy duty server to host your resume. So yes, you can change your SKU for like whenever you want. And yes, the question, yes, you answered it right as well. There is a downtime, a very small one, but as it is a resume website, the downtime doesn't matter. But yes, if it is something regarding your deployment, then yes, there is a downtime when you change the SKU. Thank you for asking that. Next question is explain fork again, please. This just makes repository available to use. Yes, I'll explain fork. Thank you for asking. So what is fork? I'll explain it like this. Okay, let's say I am a farmer and I am doing farming. Now, let's say James came over to my farm and he looks at my farm and he thinks, oh, this farm is nice. I want to try this farming, but I don't want to do it exactly the same way as Mustafa did. I want to give my own inputs to it. I want to put my own, features and flavors to it, and I want to grow my own crops. But I don't want to work hard in the basic procedure of, plowing the field, putting the seeds, putting the manure, and all of that stuff. So there is this option called fork. Let's say in real life, James has an option to go to my farm, click on fork. As soon as he clicked on fork, my whole farm, it got picked up and it got copy pasted in James farm. Now, as it is pasted in James farm, it is not connected to me. It is as same as my farm, but it is not connected to me. It has become James farm. He can try to modify anything he wants to do with it and deploy it any way he wants to. So yes, that is what fork is. Yes, so yeah, the answer is right. This just makes repository available to use. Correct. Does it sync automatically after a period of time from Git if you do not do it manually? It does sometimes. It has happened with me. What happens is I I always wanted that my GitHub should look very green. I did changes and I used to keep on adding things to my resume. But whenever I gave that link to people, the changes didn't reflect. Sometimes it did. So there is no particular timeline given for that. That yes, it syncs automatically or it doesn't. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. But most of the time, to be on the safer side, you should click on sync. Because let's say if it syncs in 5 hours, you don't want old information or outdated information on your website for 5 hours. So it's safer to sync it every time you do changes. Thank you, Ankit, for explaining. Thank you so much. Can we get this session recording? Yes, Rashmita will share it. Thank you so much. The next question. Yeah, that's it. If I missed any question, please unmute yourself. You can unmute yourself and ask me directly. You can even contact me on LinkedIn. Yes, this is awesome. I found very useful building
I have a
serverless.
question for that. Hello.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, I have a question like Microsoft give 1 month free, like Amazon give 1 year free. Then is Microsoft also give 1 year free? Like
Yes.
generally, last month only I created one seminar, created the user ID, they charge the money.
Okay.
I then is there any way in the Microsoft like pay as you go? They say, but after 1 month they are charging. Is there any way for that they cannot charge for 1 year or something like that way?
Yes. Good question. I'll show that with a demo. I'll answer your question with a demo. So I'll share my screen and I'll go back to my portal. I will go back to the Microsoft. I'll go back to my. This is my app services. Why did Microsoft charge me? That is the question. Why did you charge me? So, when you go to app service plans, so the app service plan we used the name. The name is not here, I guess. All right, I'll just try. Okay, let's go to scale up. Yeah. So you see, this dev test, production, and isolated. When Microsoft charged you, you got $100 in credit. So when you, if you're from India, if you convert $100 into Indian rupees, it's like somewhat like 7,500. I'm just assuming. So let's say you have 7,500 rupees. Now you used this server. Let's call this server P1V2 2997.80. This server uses 2997.80 per month. So you used it for 1 month. So from your 7,500 rupees, 2997 was minus. You used it for second month, again 2997. So you have exhausted 6,000 rupees. But let's say that for some XYZ reason, you directly used a server called P3V2. It uses 12,000 rupees per month. You used this in the first month itself. Now you had $100 to spend, right? Now when you use 12,000 rupees, that is approximately 180, $190, I guess, or something near about 160 to $180. When you use something that was beyond your credit, Microsoft charges you. How can you make sure you're not charged? So always, I mean, I'm again saying this from my experience because when I was a student, I was scared of all of these things. Once I used AWS and AWS sent me a bill of 20,000 rupees. I didn't know that. I told them, I requested them, I'm a student, please give me a discount. They didn't. I had to pay 20,000 rupees. So they were not lenient. But Microsoft Azure did. Microsoft Azure also charged me, I mean, like 15,000 rupees or something. I requested them, I'm a student, I submitted my documents and they waived off my credits. They were very kind to me. So yeah, to answer your question, you can always find this F1 tire. You see this F1. So in Microsoft, all of these services, somewhere or the other, there is a free tire available to use. This free tire is available to you for 12 months. So when you ask me that, can I use a lot of services for 12 months for free? Definitely you should use it for free for 12 months. I mean, why not? When you're getting something for free, definitely use it. I would never recommend spending money for experimentation. If you are experimenting it, always try the free tire. So yeah, this is how you get the free tire. When Microsoft Azure, when the website says that you can use Microsoft Azure for 12 months, this is what they mean. You can use it for free if you select the free resources. I hope I answered it briefly.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you.
Any more questions?
Yeah, thank you. Can you share the video to this teaching later? Is that okay?
The video, right?
Yes, please. The recording.
Yes, video. The video is shared in the chat. I will point it out. So
Right.
if you scroll the chat, Rashmita has pasted the link. I'll paste it again. So this is the video link of this session. You can find it here.
I can't actually. It's not visible on mine. It's just showing failed to send. I tried sending a message earlier too on the chat.
Oh, I think Rashmita, I think this video is not available right now because the session is not over, right?
Yeah, no, it's
Yeah, okay. And also, yeah, thank you for the question, James. Do we back up the web app as an option? you have, so backup. This is one of my favorite topics, because you always, so it's my dialogue. I always have a backup plan. Always have a backup plan A, backup plan B, C, D. You have backup plans till Z. You should always have a backup. So yes, you can have a backup in your own region. You can have a backup in the same data center. You can have a backup in the same zone, and you can even have a geo-redundant backup for your web app services. All these backups ensure that your web app never goes down, never ever. So in the same deployment center, you can have three backups availability set. You can have three availability sets, and in the same zone, you can have multiple backups. If you are not sure that maybe I'm from Japan, and maybe I am afraid that an earthquake might disrupt the data center and my data will be lost, I can have a backup in the China data center and an India data center and a USA data center. So even if something goes wrong on Microsoft's end, then they can revert back, and all these other data centers can support my web app, ensuring no downtime. So yeah, backup is a huge topic, and there are so many options for backup. Yes. Thank you for the question. Any more questions? Also, I mean, you can give me a feedback, and I would be very happy if I get a feedback. So I'll send my LinkedIn profile on the chat, and you can personally text me and give me a very honest feedback, how you like my session, how can I improve, or so every feedback is constructive for me, and I really appreciate feedback, because I mean, to grow is human, right? So I want to change if there is something better I can do in my presentation or in the content of the presentation. So that is my LinkedIn link in the chat. You can anytime ping me. I'll paste my email ID as well. That is my email ID, and you can email me if you want to ask me anything, and or maybe if you want me to conduct another session on something, and even if I don't know about it, I'll definitely make sure to learn it and then answer your question. I mean, Microsoft Azure is huge. It's like a giant, and I don't know everything about it, to be very honest, and I'm still learning, and it never stops. Learning never stops. So I can research about it and then answer your question. So feel free to ping me anytime. If I don't know the answer, I'll get a person who knows the answer and get your answer solved. Yeah. Also, I do need the feedback. Okay, that would be a favor to me if you give me a nice, I mean, not just nice, but it would be nice to me if you give me a feedback. So yeah.
Thank you, Mustafa, for the session, and thank you all for joining us today. I have shared the link to our feedback survey in the chat. Do send your feedback. It will help us curate topics that better suits our audiences. Also, if you haven't done the event check-in yet, please feel free to do it. Please visit Microsoft Reactor Bengaluru meetup page for more session. Thank you all once again. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Rashmita, for having me here, and thank you for arranging this whole thing and making it an exciting experience.
Thank you, Mustafa.
Thank you everyone for attending. Have a nice day.